Harper Paperbacks and Harper Audio present Promises of the Heart, a novel by Nan Rossiter, performed by Erin Bennett. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, King James Version. Part 1. 1. Macey Samuelson stood on the wraparound porch of the old Victorian home she and her husband, Ben, had been restoring for the past 9 years. She gazed at the long silky garlands of Spanish moss hanging from the oak trees in the yard and crossed her arms stoically. She had been through this before, and she would get through it again, but her heart was still a big ache. A phrase her little sister, Maeve, had used when they were kids to describe the way her chest felt when Grandy died, and now a term they both used when they felt the unbearable sorrow of loss. Placing a hand on her abdomen, Macey dreaded what was to come and, despite her resolve to not cry, felt tears welling up in her eyes. She looked at the still illuminated screen on her phone. It read, Ben, and then, call ended. They'd been through this before, and as soon as he had heard the quiver in her voice, he'd said, "I'll be right there." It had been raining for days, the result of lingering bands of a tropical storm that had stalled off the Georgia coast, making the Savannah skies look just like she felt, weary, somber, and hopeless. In high school, Macey had been voted class optimist, but now, after her 5th miscarriage, she felt anything but. Each time she got pregnant, her heart swelled with hope. Maybe she'd carried a full term this time, instead of barely 2 months. Maybe she and Ben would bring home a sweet, healthy baby, a baby for whom a nursery was already painted and furnished. They'd even picked out names, Harper for a girl, and Emmett after her grandfather for a boy. But now Macey's heart was so broken she couldn't even think about trying again, and at 36, she felt like time was running out. Feeling the familiar, dull pain, she curled up on the porch swing and pulled a pillow against her abdomen. How long would it take for her body to realize the baby had died? Dr. Baxter had asked her if she wanted to schedule a D&C, but she'd declined. It wasn't that she didn't believe her doctor when she'd confirmed that morning that there was no heartbeat. It was just that, well, what if she was wrong? What if the baby just had a really quiet heartbeat? Or was tucked into a position that made the heartbeat hard to hear? She knew, of course, deep down, that the chances were nearly impossible, but she had to be absolutely sure. She could hear Grandy's voice telling her gently that things that are impossible with men are possible with God. And she wanted to hold on to that one last thread of hope and let her body make the final call. It was the only way she'd be sure. "Oh, Grandy," she whispered, "why does this keep happening? Don't you have some strings you could pull?" As if on cue, the wind chime she and her grandfather had made from flattened silver spoons tinkled above her head. She looked up, smiled wistfully, and pictured her grandmother bending God's ear just as intently as she had bent Grandpa's. "That's too much, Emmett," Grandy had often scolded, eyeing her husband's piled-high bowl of ice cream they'd made with the peaches they'd picked that afternoon. "It's not good for your cholesterol." "Oh, Millie," he replied, winking at his 2 little granddaughters. "We have fresh peaches only once a year. I'm sure a little extra ice cream won't kill me." "There's enough in that bowl for all of us," Grandy admonished. But her childhood sweetheart just grinned at her impishly.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?